Okay, we'll open up with, obviously an opener here. Playing at Tiger Stadium is, such a special opportunity. So I know our guys and staff and fans and everybody associated with the program coming back to Tiger Stadium is pretty exciting. We got a lot of guys, I think like 45 guys that will be walking down Victory Hill for the first time. We were busy getting them, helping them secure suits, and so it's exciting. When you get a chance to open on the road and have some success, you build a lot of momentum. But then you take a look at now the opportunity to play at home. It heightens it even more. We've certainly feel great about what we accomplished, but our mantra this year is 1-0. So we celebrated that win, 24 hours. We came in, had recovery on Sunday. Monday, we went back to work, put that behind us, and focused on Louisiana Tech, and we want to go 1-0. And we have to replicate all the things that we did to get to 1-0. And that goal for us will be the same each and every year. So I know you guys hear this each and every week from me, but, we got a commitment from our guys that they want to do the hard things the right way. And that is, building great habits, following a process that's in place that is successful. And that's not easy because you just take a look at, the narrative leading into our first game. Our fan base was going to be eroding. The head coach is on the hot seat. They can't run the ball. They won't be able to stop the run. I mean, I could go on and on. We got, people taking shots at our process. It went on. And then 24 hours later, the same people said that we got one of the best teams in the country. So you can see how silly this is if you're just listening to those narratives. What we have to be focused on is what we can control on a day-to-day basis. And what we can control is how we prepare. And our preparation allowed us to play with great composure on the road in a very hostile environment. We competed on every play, but most importantly, we played with great confidence. Our guys believed going into the game that they were going to win the game, regardless of the situation. So that's what we're about, and we need to stay focused on that if we want to get to 1-0 this week. So a couple of things from the game. I think the thing that I'd like to point out is, I think it's easy to see energy and passion, and those things are important. Just working is not good enough. You have to have passion in what you do. And one of the things that stands out is there's a lot of passion on that defensive side of the ball. And with that passion is guys being selfless. I'll give you an example. Harold's play at the end of the game. He doesn't make that play unless our end, Patrick Pavement, gives himself up inside the C gap to collapse the tackle so we can get the wraparound. Or P.J. Woodland's sack earlier, where Jack Pyburn takes an upfield intentional rush to open up the D gap so he can get to the quarterback. And that happened pretty much the entire game. Guys playing their 1/11th across the board, and that's what Blake has been harping on. That's what we've been talking about in terms of how you play team defense. You first have to have a passion because you got to run, hit, you got to get excited, but then you got to do your job, not somebody else's job. And we had a lot of that going on at times, and we'll continue to build on that. From an offensive standpoint, what I thought really stood out, and you guys are not going to like this, but the receivers have been talked about so much about their playmaking ability, and they certainly have it, and they have it in loads. But they block their tails off. And that's another indication of a selflessness to we need to run the football. And we can't run it unless we're getting guys blocking downfield. And we did. And I know this is not the sexy stuff that you guys want to talk about, but winning on the road is hard against the top 5 team, and you got to do the little things the right way. And I wanted to illustrate that and make sure that I gave them the accolades for that. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously the SEC Offensive Player of the Week, which you know, and Braylon Moore did an outstanding job in his first start at center, keeping that offensive line in a really good position all night. Louisiana Tech. I'll start with this. Have a lot of respect for Coach Cumbie and the way he works. I get a chance to see him virtually all summer in camps. He's one of the hardest working coaches I've seen in the industry, just doing whatever he can to continue to build his program and recruit, in particular, the state of Louisiana. And I give him great credit for that. Obviously, from a standpoint of in-state, we relish these opportunities to play in-state. But we also know that our opponent, this is the biggest game of their career for many of them. So we have to be prepared and certainly do the things that we need to do. Defensively, I think they play with great energy. Colby Fields is a former player here, leads their team. He was the defensive player of the year in Conference USA. And it's, again, a team from an offensive standpoint that centers around the quarterback. So, again, we'll be challenged to stop the quarterback and the quarterback run. So I know that was a lot. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. I'll open it up to questions.
Coach, with the SEC going to a 9-game conference schedule, what do you think is sort of the future with games like this against a team like Louisiana Tech, with especially in-state schools, smaller schools?
Well, I still think there's a place. We're going to play 12, Koki, so if you got 9 plus maybe we play one up in a Power 4, there's 10. I think the other 2 could very easily come from the state of Louisiana. So I would still be in favor of doing that and hope that we do moving forward.
Brian, I didn't have a chance to ask you after the game. Into the first half, 4th and 2, what happened there and what did you learn from that going forward?
Well, the analytics call for a go on the 4th and 2. However, the mistake that I made on that is that we didn't have enough time on the clock to get in 4 plays. So analytics is also looking at how many plays can you get in to make that 4th and 2 worthwhile. Even if we got it, with only 1 timeout and the time left on the clock, it would not have given us the maximum opportunity on that go. So that was a mistake on my part. We should have kicked the field goal in that situation.
Yeah, Brian, right here. After the game, you said you couldn't tell whether Barry and Brown scored or not. Did you look at the film, and what did you think looking at the film? And has the SEC said anything to you about that?
We have talked to the SEC about it. John McDade, the supervisor of officials, and I had a conversation about it. I think it was extremely productive in all areas. This thing has kind of gotten away from us a little bit, with so many replays in the NFL, and it's kind of trickled down to college football. Are you a runner or are you a catcher of the football? And kind of putting a burden on the wide receiver. The wide receiver has to catch the football. He then is a runner, and then he's got to survive the ground. You saw earlier, Caden Durham came over the goal line and hit the ground, the ball popped out. Well, a runner doesn't have the same burden as a wide receiver. So, there is conversation about how we can make this cleaner, for sure, because clearly from a common sense standpoint, that doesn't make much sense. So the rule was applied correctly by the letter of it, but rules are made to be changed. and so hopefully down the road, I think there'll be some changes in the way that is looked at. But the crew administered the protocols and procedures the right way on that play.
Coach, how rewarding is it when transfers that you went out and got, you and your staff, make an immediate impact, like Mansour Delane, who got the game ball, and Braylon Moore getting the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, making an immediate impact?
Yeah, we're happy for those guys. There's no question. But Mansour, I thought, was very articulate in his post-game talk, and his interception was because we were doing the right things up front, and he got that. And I think that's the point I wanted to make. Braylon was the same way when he was named SEC Lineman of the Week. He said, I've never had this kind of trust with the guys next to me. And so going into the portal, we were looking for those kind of guys. that wanted to be here for a championship, that weren't in it for the individual accolades. And I'm great. To me, I think our guys want to be the reason that we're having success, but know that they're not the only reason that we're having success, right? So I think that those are the kind of guys that we got, and we're seeing that come to fruition. Now, we're going to have to handle adversity during the year. We're going to have to handle injuries during the year. There's other things that will come in front of us, but for the first entry into this, it was a good weekend for us.
Coach over here, Jordan Gilbert had to step up and get the start in the first half. Just assess his play, and just we gave the game ball to Mansour Delane, but just the overall success of the defensive backs.
Yeah, Jordan is that kind of guy. He's a great leader. He's a veteran. When we found out about AJ, obviously, we immediately thought, let's get somebody on the field that has done this before. And his experience showed he was physical, communicated effectively, did a really good job, and he's such a valuable piece to what we're doing.
Coach, right back here behind Mike. Demos, when he said that this was like a final exam on day one of class, and said that he would have given LSU a 65 and Clemson a 58 because neither played great. Just wondering how you would have graded or assessed the team in their first game of the year.
Well, I thought we dominated him in the second half. So he's either a really good grader for giving himself a 58, or he's a really hard grader on us, or he didn't see the second half, which that might be the case. He might not have wanted to see the second half. So, again, look, this is all like, past. We're much more focused on Louisiana Tech, to be quite honest with you. And Clemson is a darn good football team. That's a really good, that's a top-notch team, and they're going to be a team in the hunt for a playoff picture. And we hope we are too. But it was only one game. So I don't know if he's a hard grader or an easy grader, but I like the way we played in the second half.
Coach, you have an update on Destin Hill?
Yes, he has a fractured left hand. He had surgery yesterday. We put a plate in it and to stabilize it. He'll be out this week. We think that we can get him in a position where next week he can be in a limited capacity for us. So the plate stabilizes it to the point where we can put a cast on it that allows him to function as a wide receiver. So although disappointed that he won't play this week, he's pretty excited that he'll get a chance to get back out on the field next week.
And Ashton Stamps, I don't think took a defensive snap. Can you explain that decision?
Well, we're going to play the guys that obviously give us the best chance to win, and he's a really good player. There's no doubt. But when you talk about the rotation right now, the rotation was what we played on Saturday, but Ashton's got to stay ready. He knows that. This is a long season. We have great confidence in him and his ability to go out there and play at a high level for us.
You alluded to it in the post game about getting creative with the calls in the run game. What was your assessment of the job that Joe and the staff did on offense and calling the game to win the game, but also getting a lot out there?
Yeah, look, I think it's been pretty obvious that there's been an emphasis in making sure that we run the ball and become more balanced to set up play action. Some of our best plays were the play action throws. So to do that when you're in a spread offense, you have to be creative. You're moving receivers and tight ends around. Your run game can feature, wide receivers in it as well. They're blocking, running. So I think just keeping that same mindset, really, and moving forward, that we have to continue to be that way and find the areas where we can prod and get the best looks to run the football.
Coach, you've coached football for a long time. When you look at Trey'Dez Green and his physical gifts and the fact that he hasn't played football all that long, what is his future and what is his impact on the game even when he doesn't catch passes, right? He drew pass interference calls, so forth.
Yeah. First of all, he's a terrific kid. I don't know if you saw it, but he waited for everybody to get into the locker room. He was the one guy that stood out there and just you get generational talents, right, throughout your career, but you don't get generational talents in kids that you love like that. He's so into his teammates and what they do and how they do it. He's selfless, and he's still learning. What I love is his willingness to stick his nose in there and get dirty in the run game, and he did a really good job there. The second thing is he's still working on his technique. So his technical ability is not just going to be run down the field and jump up and get the ball. That's not Trey'Dez Green's final piece of what he looks like. There's many more intricacies in running option routes and comebacks and things of that nature that we are excited to continue to work with him and grow. So we're just scratching the surface, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, Coach. 0 defensive penalties, 0 carries that Clemson had that went over 10 yards. I'm curious if you can speak to Blake Baker and the defensive staff and getting this defense ready with, I believe it was 10 players that weren't on this roster last year that played in the game, just getting them ready so quickly for game 1 and to have such a efficient, kind of mistake-free night.
It didn't happen overnight. It started in January with, being on time, doing the little things, keeping your locker clean. I know you don't want to hear this stuff, but I'm answering your question honestly. It's the discipline that we have within the program. Our guys bought into it, and it carries on to the field and the way they play. We're not going to tolerate foolishness. We had a couple foolish penalties on offense. Those things can happen. Our guys took full accountability for it, which is great, and we'll continue to do a better job communicating how we can be better in helping them not make those mistakes. But I think it's just an overall program perspective, and then those guys really trusting what we've been telling them and then going out and doing it.
Brian, Aaron Anderson leads the team in receiving yards. I believe he had the most receptions as well. For a guy to, sort of miss some time in the preseason camp and to still come out and look to be as rock solid as he was last season, just speak to his, stability within himself and within the offense to perform the way he does.
He's an electric playmaker. And Aaron would tell you that there's more there. And he's growing as a young man. And making good choices and doing the right thing, taking care of his body. And now the next thing is consistency in his practicing, because the carryover is when the lights go on, he's a different dude. So I just like his maturity and the growth that he is showing each and every week when he comes into the building. And that's why he's going to have continued success here and down the road. 20 freshmen. It's hard to, really say, who's going to get in the game in certain situations. We got talented freshmen, and if they can help us win, I'm going to play them all. I'll play anybody. That's my job and responsibility, is to put the best 22 guys on the field to help us win. And if it happens to be some of those freshmen, they're going to play.
Coach, with Bauer Sharp as a blocker, how is he? What different things can you guys do within the offense with a guy who can chip as well as he can and just block out in space as well as he did?
Well, he's a tenacious competitor. You saw when he had the fumble. He makes a great tackle. If he doesn't make that tackle, that's a score. I mean, he's just a competitor. He creates an energy in the unit by just the way he goes about it. It's like Jack Pyburn on defense. I mean, those guys create such an energy and bring up the others. And so whether it's blocking, catching the football, keeping the guys up on the sideline, he's just he's a key piece to keeping our guys sharp and playing at a high level.
Just your assessment of Garrett. Did you have any issues getting plays in, or is that his ability at the line to, see what he sees and make some changes and corrections there?
Yeah, all that's his management of what's going on. I don't think we had a delay of game penalty. We didn't have a snap infraction. We had the one on Trey'Dez where we were on a second count and he didn't get the signal. But I was really pleased with the management from that standpoint. But yeah, I think there were a couple of times where, we could have, on our end got the play in a little sooner, but his management was outstanding. That's as good as he's been in terms of, getting us in the right run plays, making the right checks. As I said, I think he held the ball for no more than 2.2 seconds on an average. The ball came out quickly. That helps your offensive line. I thought he did that happens only when you have a veteran quarterback.
You said analytics play a role in making your decision at the end of the first half. Now that you know and have seen how well your defense played for a game, does that affect your decision in those situations?
It did. It did during the game, actually. That's why we punted from our own 40 going in. We punted the 40 because our defense, analytics would have had us going for it at that time. But I love the way our defense, I don't like the way we pinned the football. We'll have to get better there on our sky kicking. But that was exactly to your question. That's why we punted the football there from the 40-yard line.
The whole 1-0 thing, where did that start from? Was that something you said you thought we have to make this a visible thing? And going all the way to the T-shirts you guys wore in pregame warm-ups, whose idea was that?
It was all of that was discussed internally, and ultimately I make the decision on those things. But we put ourselves out there, and look, sometimes you got to go out on the limb, and some say it's not smart. I knew the team that we had, and I knew it was a mature enough team that we could put that on them, regardless of what the outcome would be. And we knew 1-0 was going to be where we wanted to be. You can see on the board right here, there's only one game that's visible on that board, and that's Louisiana Tech. The other one's covered up from the week before and all the others. And so it's just been a mindset that we've kept. And so the 1-0 wasn't, targeted, hey, this is, rubbing it in Clemson's nose. This was our mantra for the year. We just want to focus 1 week at a time. Avoid the noise, stay locked in, and do the things that we've been doing, then we can get to 1-0 each week. So that was really much more of a, what's the mission of the group this year than it was anything else.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, Coach, how do you keep your team's intensity and focus up, not just when they're playing ranked teams like Clemson, but when they're playing this Louisiana Tech team this weekend?
Well, it's a good question because we didn't do that against Nicholls State last year. And so we've talked about that. There's a standard of playing football here at LSU, and that's the standard that we're going to have to play when we go every time on that field. Every Saturday, there's a standard. And our guys know what the standard is. We're going to be demanding, not demeaning, but we're going to be demanding. Today's going to be a demanding practice. And they're going to have to live up to those standards. And they know that. I mean, we've already talked about what to expect this week, but our expectations are if we want to go 1-0, we have to do the same things each and every week, and we're not moving off of that. And we've heard enough about the other stuff. We're going to focus on what we can control, and that is today, Tuesday's practice is the most important thing.
It's had some people ask about Ramos. He had cramps. Is that what happened with him? Or
yeah, he said his calf cramped up on the one that he missed, and so we went right to work on the sideline. And he felt better after that. But that was really because you could see the kick that he made from 52. He did not have that leg strength last year. That was almost halfway up in the net. We calculated, Jack Marucci, he does all his calculations with the science end of things, that was a 58-yard kick in normal. And he didn't have that range last year. So we handled the cramping on the one that he kind of came up lame on. It was his plant foot. Yeah, it was the plant foot. Good. All right. Thank you.